Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world and this first substantive video looking at my adventures in rekindling my joy, hopefully, for Warhammer 40,000. So what am I going to be covering in this first video? I think there's a couple of obvious points I need to address. The first one is, what army am I going to be collecting? So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about world setting. For me, the world setting is going to be really important. I do want to engage with this on a reasonably narrative approach and not just identify this is the best unit, I'm going to take 3 of them. That sort of standard competitive mindset. I want to understand the reasons why things are in the army, understand the setting of this force coming from. It's something I wanted to do with my Warhammer the Old World armies, and the narrative element kind of drifted away a little bit. So I do want to try and bring myself to that as we go through the process. So what army am I collecting? Well, about, best part of 10 years ago, there was a Warhammer 40,000 force I really fancied doing, and I started painting it up. I got to about 500 points worth of things when I really lost momentum. It was getting quite expensive. I was just really going through almost like a treacle effect of painting. I had so much stuff to make up those 500 points, and I kind of lost the drive and the love for it. Project abandoned, models disposed of. What was that force? Well, it was the Imperial Guard army. I just always loved that idea of an Astra Militarum force, as they're now called, centered around the French Napoleonic Imperial Guard. I approached it at the time, 10 years-ish ago, without any real plan, without any real structure. I was just buying the infantry and painting them, and that didn't really work for me. So I do think now, though, with the rise of third-party miniatures, with alternative sculpts, etc., this is a really good opportunity for me to get back into the Imperial Guard, and to see if I can really make the project work for me and to rekindle that desire to play the game. So without any further ado, let us move to world building. I just mentioned it's important, and I really want to have an effective background to what I'm doing. I'll hopefully keep revisiting this to A, keep myself honest, and B, also just to provide a bit of inspiration around what I'm doing force-wise. Without any further ado then, let's have a look at my initial thoughts on the home of my Imperial Guard army. Deep in the so-called Europa cluster of planets lies the unassuming world, New Bayonne. Officially designated an agri-world, vast swathes of this backwater planet have been set aside as fields, punctured by a few hive-style cities and the inhospitable lands of the equator. Since time immemorial, and possibly longer, this world has almost uniquely benefited from the governorship of the quietly efficient Mortier family. This, despite appearances, is not a typical agri-world. Around 400 or so years ago, large quantities of rare metals and minerals were discovered. Wary of New Bayonne being turned into some kind of necromandian hellscape, then Governor Jacques Mortier chose not to report the matter to the imperial administration. A convenient side note in the history of this world is that a small heretic cabal, which appeared to consist of several of the most senior metallurgical scientists, was discovered and quickly eradicated, taking their secrets to the grave. Since then, in the less hospitable lands, licenses for modest mining works have been granted. Officially, they're mining for tin and other common resources used in the manufactorums of New Bayonne. When it comes to the matter of tithes, New Bayonne has a long tradition of widespread conscription into its planetary defence force, the PDF. From there, units are selected for off-world duty, as needed to meet the manpower tithe of the emperor. Such tithe payments can be entire regiments or new formations drawn from existing units, ensuring that only the most disposable forces are sent off to the Astra Militarum. The PDF therefore consists of an army of infantry, cavalry, armour and artillery, which is well trained and highly motivated. For those that fall behind the grade, they can only expect to spend what remains of their lives in the Astra Militarum, a short, sharp life, most likely. Unusually, the PDF is split into 3 nominal forces. You have the regular forces, which make up the majority of the armies available to the planetary authorities. You have the Governor's Guard, around 40,000 soldiers in all arms, which are under the direct control of the Governor. And then you have the MDO, the Mine Defence Operatives, a brigade which operates exclusively in the most inhospitable areas of the planet and acting as a pseudo police force for the mine operations. The MDO is an infantry formation which generally serves in detached duties, never as a brigade on its own. Distinct red-coated troops preferring weapons like the flamer to the more conventional plasma gun. So, world setting aside, it's time to launch into starting to get some models together. Those of you who follow the channel for a while might have seen some references to models I've created from Wargames Atlantic Ranges already for their sci-fi stuff, but who knows what the future may hold. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for listening to this introduction / part 1 video. I'm hoping that the background I've written does allow me to have enough insight, really enough momentum, motivation in order to put a force together that's going to be effective and fun, but also loose enough that will allow me to come back and fill in some of the details as we go along. As always, if you've got any great ideas, do let me know down in the comments below. I do read them all, even if I don't necessarily respond to everything, and I do really appreciate any engagement that the video will get. And of course, if you've enjoyed the video and you want to follow this series, a like and a subscribe are always much appreciated. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much for listening. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.